Hi guys, welcome to this session in Power BI. In this module, I want to talk about slicers and slicer settings. So I've got a simple visual on the screen there. I want to add a slicer. So in the visualizations area, you have a slicer sitting there with a little filter symbol. Click on that. It gives you a slicer. Let's bring that up there. So I want to use customers, and the first thing I'm going to tick is contact. So that default is a list of contacts. Now, if I want that to be slightly different, say I want that to be buttons instead of a drop-down list, which is a default, what I can do is go into slicer settings, and change this from a list to tile, and then these become buttons, and then you can just adjust these however you so wish. Now you can also format these. If you go to general, you can play around with these settings. If I put a title on, and then you can see what this is going to be. I'll just put my button. My buttons sits over there. You've got the heading options again. If you want to change that, make it different heading style, you can come further down, set the alignment to be center, like so. So this is one way of doing that. So if I click on any of these, you can see they're being selected and the little table's changing to reflect wherever I select. Now you can also, if you come down this side, I'll close this off, add subtitles. I don't want to add that. You've got divider, you've got spacing, you've got effects. Let's go for effects. So if I go for background color, I'll pick a color. I'll go for orange. So that doesn't look great, so I'm not going for that. Let's put that back to white. You've got visual border, so you've got the black border. If I put on, you can change this to being something else. You can change the size of it, so it's very small at the minute. Make that a little bit bigger. There's a border around it. Again, I'm not liking that, so I'm turning that off, closing that down. Header options are on. Options, background for the header, I'll go for orange again. That's this information across the top. I'll leave that like that. So you can play around with all of these. You can select all of these. So if I come off the general tab for a second, on visual, you have the default setting is that if I hold my control key down, I can select multiple options, like so. I can change that though by restricting how that works. So I'm on visuals, and at the top there you've got options here. These are just the different options that I selected initially to get the tile option. In selection, you've got this option here, single selection. If I tick that on, you can only select one item at a time. Even if you've got your control key down, it doesn't matter. I've got my control key down. It is only letting me select one item at a time. So I'll leave that on there. Now down here where it's got values, if I come into this area, values, and then, well, let's go for background first. Let's go for an orange background. Not liking orange background, but there you go. You've got values, different size of font. You can select font color. I've got no idea what would match better than black, that color there, but I will leave it on. Let's put it darker, maybe, see if it stands out a little bit more. It does, so that's okay on there for values. Now border, if I go to border, you can take some of these off. I'll leave the bottom one on actually and take the other ones off, and you can see how that would work. When you click on these, you can see that. If you want the border color to be a bit more fancier than that, you can select that slightly blue. You can just about see it. You can change the size of that, so get a fat underline border there. If I take the background off, it might look a little bit better, like so. So when you're clicking something, it's selecting black when you can see the blue underline. So all of those are possible. So let me just create another slicer. So I'll click on slicer, just move that up to the top. If I tick contact on, this time I'll leave it on a list, make this a little bit bigger. There's a contact. What you can do, the contact is down there as the field, you can bring a second field. So I'm going for sector, pushing that underneath there. What that'll do is create like a little drop down list underneath, so you can see that they are in the banking, or he's in the banking sector, they're in IT. So you're creating like a separate drop down. You're drilling down a bit more in a bit more detail to a person. And again, if you tick on these, it selects both of them. So tick that one, it selects both of them. Now, once you add a hierarchy, you have some extra settings. If you go back into format your visuals, you'll see there's hierarchy at the bottom there. So you can select different levels. So this is, if watch what happens when I move this across. If I just drag this over, see that moved the actual indentation across for each of those. And if I just pull it back, you can see it going back the other way. They move back. So if you've got it expanded, you'll do that. If I open this up, so at the moment it has a little chevron. You can change that to be a plus or a minus. So you'll see it like that, and you click on the minus just to hide that out of the way, and you get a plus. The other icon in there was a caret, a little arrow. It's totally up to you which one you want to utilize. What I want to do now is show you how you can synchronize slicers. So on this sheet, which is called Sync 1, I want to synchronize the slicer with this one on the main sheet. So first of all, let me do a slicer. So slicer, move it over here. I want that for colleague. I'm going into slicer settings to make that a tile, like so. And then I'll just make that nice and small at the top. Then onto the main one, doing exactly the same, selecting slicer. It's come up over there, but I want this to be colleague as well. List of colleagues. I'll put it as tiles as well. Slicer settings, tiles, comes down like so. So what you do now is you go to the view tab, which I'm on, you go into sync slicers, and you basically tick the slices that you want syncing like so. So when you then do a filter on this one, so I'll pick on Ann Pearson. If I go onto the sync, Ann Pearson is selected there. If I select somebody else on this one, Carol Mason, and then onto the main one, Carol Mason selected. So that's basically how you synchronize your slicers. So that's all I want to talk about in this little video, how you can use slicers and get the best out of them. So hopefully this is of use. Thank you for your time. I'll catch you on the next one.